Monday edition of PFT PM, the first day of our PFT Live break, and hashtag no days off, except when I need to take a day off. Today I got started a little bit later than I will most days. Hopefully I'll tape PFT PM in the AM so it lands early in the PM. Today it's going to be a little later in the PM, but there's still plenty of stuff to discuss. And I knew there would be something more with Brendan Sorsby, the NCAA, and Texas Tech, and now the Big 12. That was today's development. Actually, two developments. The NCAA has filed its appeal of the ruling that came down last Monday, requesting an expedited briefing schedule with the goal of resolving the case before the start of college football season. That doesn't really help Sorsby. He needs it to be resolved by next Monday, June 22, because that's the deadline for entering the supplemental draft. More on that in a minute. Separately, and there was some huffing and puffing in both directions last week between the Big 12 and Texas Tech over whether the Big 12 is able to sanction Texas Tech for playing Sorsby under conference bylaws. The victory that Sorsby secured last Monday only applies to NCAA bylaws. So the argument is we as a conference can still do something if Texas Tech puts this player on the field who has violated repeatedly the NCAA gambling rules. And one of the things mentioned in this new lawsuit, and I mentioned it last week, and we got to take a step back from the addiction that Brendan Sorsby suffers from, and we have to acknowledge that behavior preceded the addiction, and the behavior at the root of this involves gambling when he was under the age of 21, which isn't legal in Ohio, where this got started. It's not legal anywhere that anyone can gamble under the age of 21. And a lot of the gambling he did happened when he was under 21. And a lot of the gambling he did happened through third parties, which is a separate violation. So that's part of what the Big 12 is going to harp on as it attempts to secure the ability to sanction Sorsby indirectly by sanctioning Texas Tech. And what they've done, they filed a lawsuit in federal court in Dallas to try to secure the ability to potentially sanction Texas Tech if enough of the members of the Big 12 vote to do so. They haven't decided to do it yet, but because of the back and forth last week, you had Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton basically saying, bring it on. You have the Big 12 at the urging of the Oklahoma Attorney General thinking about what it's going to do. And I think that Sorsby's camp would admit today that they probably made a mistake by not immediately filing an amended complaint in the Lubbock County lawsuit against the Big 12 to force them to respect the ruling that keeps Sorsby eligible despite the alleged violation of the NCAA gambling policy. And obviously it was violated. The question is whether or not, and this is where it gets into the nuances of the case that aren't in the 4-page ruling that was issued last week. That's the biggest problem I have with it. We don't have enough to really understand why the judge worked his way through the maze and came to the conclusion that Sorsby's eligible, given the fact that he admits that he violated the gambling policy repeatedly. So, sometimes you get in a situation where there's a race to the courthouse, and we don't know whether or not Sorsby's lawyers were in the process of putting something together that would have attacked the Big 12 in the existing case. That would have been the better move. You've got a favorable judge, state court level. You've already gotten a win. You're going back into court and you're saying, hey, stop the Big 12 from doing an end run around the ruling that's already on the books. Instead, you got the Big 12 going into federal court in Dallas and possibly coming away with a ruling that allows the conference to sanction Texas Tech if they play Sorsby in a game. So they are doing in a roundabout way what the NCAA can't do. And there's probably some regret from Sorsby's side that they didn't think more broadly about this when attacking the NCAA's decision. And they maybe should have made it broad enough so that the Big 12 wouldn't be able to take action. But you know what? This is unprecedented. So the next time that someone's in this situation, if there is a next time, I guarantee you the NCAA and the conference will be joined in the lawsuit, even if the conference hasn't made it clear that it's going to do anything. You want to seal off any avenues for preventing Brendan Sorsby from playing. That's what that initial lawsuit was about. So we go forward now. We've got the Lubbock County litigation. We've got the federal court case filed by the Big 12, appeal of the Lubbock County decision, and the clock is ticking on Sorsby and the supplemental draft. The deadline is June 22. What's he going to do? Even before the Big 12 sued, I'm thinking, with all of this blowback, and during that long video that was posted the other night by Texas Tech, the roundtable conversation, there was a comment made that Sorsby's mother, I think, called Texas Tech to ask how they're doing, and they didn't want to make a mess like this, etc. I could see Sorsby at least thinking, you know what? I don't feel welcome here. This is going to be ugly. These games, who knows what the fans are going to have on their signs? Who knows what they're going to say? You've become this flashpoint for controversy. Maybe I should just go to the NFL via the supplemental draft. Now, that could get a little dicey, too, because I have a sneaking suspicion the NFL is going to try to pull a Terrell Pryor on Brendan Sorsby if he goes to the supplemental draft and simulate the punishment that the NCAA is imposing upon him, even though Brendan Sorsby has violated no NFL rules. He hasn't had a chance to violate NFL rules. And I believe the NFL should not do anything. If he's able to say his eligibility is exhausted, and all he has to do is withdraw his lawsuit and his eligibility is gone, that's all he's got to do. Drop the lawsuit, you're not eligible, and you go to the supplemental draft. I feel like the NFL will have something up its sleeve like it did with Terrell Pryor. Pryor was suspended 5 games for selling memorabilia and getting tattoos, I think, in exchange for autographs. I mean, stuff that used to matter. And it's laughable now when you look at how far things have come in a good way, The NCAA's antitrust violations were so prevalent that not only did they refuse to pay the players, they refused to let the players make any money off of their name, image, and likeness. That's what started all this. The Ed O'Bannon lawsuit against EA Sports, the one that took away college football from the EA Sports library because they were using the names, images, likenesses, and maybe not the names, but at a minimum, when you played the game, you knew who you were playing with because it was the same shape, size, number, position. That blew everything up. And it's ridiculous when you think that Pryor got suspended 5 games for that. That wouldn't happen nowadays. But the NFL suspended him 5 games too, claiming that he manipulated the rules regarding eligibility. And we know what the NFL does. The NFL makes its decision and then works backward to justify it. And if the NFL feels compelled to follow the NCAA's lead on this, I worry that Brendan Sorsby is going to get screwed. So he's got a decision to make. And just the mere fact that the Big 12 may have a winning case, you have to factor that in, because if you find out after next Monday that the Big 12 has the power to sanction Texas Tech if Brendan Sorsby plays, and then he has the door slammed on him to play this year for Texas Tech, and he's blown his window to get to the NFL supplemental draft, he's got a decision to make. And I hope he understands that, and I hope he's able to step back and make an objective decision. What is the right move for me? Do I stand up and fight this and risk not being able to play for anyone this year? Do I just say, the hell with it, you win, I move on? I don't want to be here if it's going to be this much of a pain in the ass for everyone. So that's all to be determined, but we'll be all over it. And what I try to do with these legal concepts, because I did practice for 19 years, and I feel like I need to say that from time to time, because folks will say, what the hell do you know? What do you know? Why are you commenting on this? What do you know? I live this life. I've engaged in this strategizing, and that's what Sorsby's camp is doing right now, I'm told. They're strategizing their next move. You have to figure out how to attack, how to get what your client is looking for, when to zig, when to zag. And I want to take those concepts and try to make them understandable to people who otherwise would glaze over when you start saying habeas corpus and nolo contendere and judgment notwithstanding the verdict. There's a Latin term for it as well that I don't remember. Thank God. All right. Hard right turn, but I need to mention the passing of Aldon Smith, 36 years old. It happened on Saturday. He was dominant early in his career. 7th overall pick of the 49ers in 2011. He had 33 and a half sacks in his first 32 regular season games. He was a force of nature. There were off-field issues, substance abuse policy back when the NFL cared about substances like marijuana, and I don't know whatever he tested positive for, but he got suspended again, had DUIs, had other issues off the field, eventually was cut by the 49ers, landed with the Raiders during the 2015 season, a suspension kicked in, and he was suspended for the rest of 2015, all of 2016, all of 2017, I believe. Then the Raiders cut him because there was another incident. And then in 2020, he signed with the Cowboys and started all 16 games in his last year in the NFL. So he persisted through a lot of issues and challenges that would have caused many other players to just tap out of football a long time before he did. But his career spanned 9 years. He was on a Hall of Fame track through his first 2 seasons and started the Super Bowl loss to the Ravens to cap the 2012 season, and then it all fell apart. And it was shocking to see that it had happened. No cause of death has been announced yet. He was delivering pizzas to a homeless shelter on Saturday afternoon, and his friend told the San Francisco Chronicle. They stopped by the friend's house. The friend went inside. By the time he came back out, Smith was unresponsive, and I will continue to track that case as well. But it's always sad when a former player passes, but the younger the player is, the more tragic it feels. And Aldon Smith is a guy who had unlimited potential. He wasn't able to fully realize it, and he was persisting. He was surviving. And the interview that surfaced after his passing with a barber in the San Francisco area, there's 3 parts to it. We have a link because I've seen just a little snippet that was making the rounds. It's worth watching all 30 minutes. It's 3 parts. It's even less than 30 minutes. It's revealing as to what a player goes through when football is no longer in the equation. At one point, Aldon Smith was going door to door trying to sell roofing jobs with an ankle monitor on in 90 to 100 degree weather in Texas. And he ended up getting put under contract by that company. And that made him happy through the misery that he was experiencing after his career. So it's worth checking it out. We've got the link to all 3 parts. It's on YouTube. You can find it. I can't remember the name of the barber off the top of my head, but we've got the story at PFT, and you can find everything you're looking for. All right, we're going to stick with the 49ers. We don't know what's going on with Brandon Aiyuk, but it's a pretty basic situation. The 49ers have been squatting on his contract because they can. They owe him nothing for 2026 guaranteed. 26 million plus is what he's due to make, and it would become fully guaranteed if he's on the active roster as of week 1. It also becomes fully guaranteed if he shows up at practice and suffers a serious injury that knocks him out for the season. All he had to do was show up during the offseason program, and he likely would have been cut. He didn't. The 49ers have squatted on him trying to trade him. It got ugly last weekend. He posted a video Sunday and then another one Tuesday attacking the 49ers, calling them stupid, calling them dumb, saying they're afraid. They don't want him to go to another team because they're afraid he was going to do. On Friday, he deleted both of those videos. And then on Sunday, there was a new video. And when you couple that with the deleted videos, which maybe were an olive branch, this new video, take a look. This new video, coming to an end zone near you. He's dancing. There's music playing. He seems happy. He's got a robe and boxer shorts. And it could be, when you combine the deletion of the prior videos, 2 days later, the posting of this video, it could be that he's under the impression that the 49ers are going to release him. And they should. They've proven their point. They don't want him on the team. They tried to trade him. The leverage was you get him for the offseason program and he'll be ready to go, more ready to go for you for the regular season if you give us something for him now. That would have required working out a new deal for Aiyuk as well. And he'll probably sign for peanuts or close to it. Watch the Commanders as the most likely destination. There have been plenty of breadcrumbs tying that together, including the fact that Aiyuk and Jaden Daniels were at one point teammates at Arizona State. So I get the impression, based upon Aiyuk's deletion of the videos and the posting of the new one, that he's under the impression something good is going to happen by way of getting his freedom and having the ability to sign with another team. None of it matters until training camp. Now, I guess you can get yourself a playbook, and there's some limited stuff you can do to prepare for training camp. It's just time for the 49ers. They proved their point. They got their pound of flesh. They can move on now and do the right thing at this point, because they're going to cut him anyway. And no one's going to trade for him. There's no extra leverage now. Now, if he doesn't show up for training camp, they can put him on the reserve did not report list and just squat on him indefinitely. He's got to show up. If he's not cut before training camp, he's got to show up. And the 49ers shouldn't want that. You don't want a sideshow like when Brett Favre showed up in 2008 after he'd retired and decided he wasn't retired, and the Packers were reluctant to release him or trade him to the Vikings, the Bears, or the Lions. He showed up, and it was awkward. And I don't think the 49ers want that. No one should want that. One guy who's showing up for mandatory minicamp, and this was the source of a lot of speculation dating back to when George Pickens accepted his franchise tender of $27.298 million. And we said at the time, if he's accepting the tender, there's no way he's missing mandatory minicamp, because you get fined up to $100,000 for missing the 3-day minicamp. You haven't signed the tender. If you don't sign the tender, you don't get fined for missing mandatory minicamp. I thought when he signed the tender, that meant he was going to be there for OTAs, that he had made the decision, I'm going to throw myself into this season. I'm going to get myself ready. I'm going to do what I have to do to have the best season I can, to put the experience in Pittsburgh deeper into the rearview mirror and either get tagged again by the Cowboys or become a free agent in 2027. And if I have to do it again in 2027, I'll have 3 years of high level of performance. That's when I'll become a free agent. I thought that's what he had accepted. By not showing up at the OTAs, he hadn't really accepted to that extent. It's not a surprise that he's going to be at mandatory minicamp, because he could have avoided owing $100,000 in fines by simply not signing the tender. To the extent that anyone still thinks a trade is possible, remember, July 15 is the deadline for taking this one-year deal and turning it into a multi-year deal. After July 15, only a one-year deal. So anyone who would trade for George Pickens at that point would acquire the current contract with no ability to extend it. I don't think he's going to be traded. I think he's going to play this year. He'll have the best year he can, and then we'll see what the market thinks of him next year. I still don't know why he signed the tender when he did. The only reason to sign the tender and not show up for the OTAs is if you signed the tender because you were concerned they were going to yank it. There was no indication they were going to yank it. And 27.298, when the market's north of 42 now, surely somebody would pay him as much or more than 27.298 if he was suddenly available. So I think maybe he accepted the tender with the intent of showing up for OTAs, but then decided, I'm not doing them any favors. I'll work out on my own. But I'm not missing mandatory minicamp and paying them back $100,000, making that 27.298 into 27.198. He's not going to do that. And that's not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. He's got nothing to gain at this point by holding out. When he could have just not signed the tender, he wouldn't have been a holdout. He's not an employee of the Cowboys. So he'll be there for training camp too. There's no reason not to be. You got to lock in. You got to send the right message to the Cowboys and to the rest of the league. You got to get people to forget about the first 3 years in Pittsburgh, even though you could argue the Steelers were to blame for not designing the offense in a way that took advantage of what he does so well. The World Cup has begun, if you haven't noticed. The United States beat Paraguay on Friday night, 4-1, rollicking performance at SoFi Stadium. It was weird to see SoFi Stadium with grass everywhere, but we're going to see that. We're going to see it at MetLife Stadium. We're going to see it at Lumen Field. We've seen it at, is it Reliant Stadium, or they're going back to Reliant? I don't know. Whatever the stadium is in Texas. I'm trying to get the names right, because this whole idea of the names of the stadiums having to be redacted is comical. It's ridiculous. And it's created some weird visuals where you have the company name covered up and it just says stadium. Like the old generic beer. Like, we know it's a stadium. And Levi's leaned into it over the weekend. They took a video of, and it looked ridiculous. Above the scoreboard at Levi's Stadium, there's the Levi's logo and stadium next to it. And they covered it up. Like, you can see it's the same shape. So Levi's did that on their own Instagram account, and they're leaning into it. It is absurd. It is ridiculous. It's one of the things that the owners had to give up in order to get the games. The big things to give up were the name of the stadium, the ability to have other events for the time that FIFA has the stadium on lockdown for soccer. And that's a lot of money that you lose, not having concerts and tractor pools and monster trucks and all that stuff that they do that packs in a lot of people. And then obviously the whole grass thing on the stadiums that otherwise have artificial turf. That's going to keep coming up. It bubbled up on Friday. George Kittle made a comment about it. And even though the 49ers don't play the Rams at SoFi Stadium this year, they do play the Chargers week 15. And it's just the principle of it. As Devin McCourty said last week, it's disrespectful for the players to see real grass being installed, knowing that the fake stuff is going to go out, or the real stuff's going to go out and the fake stuff's going to come back. But it all boils down to this. I tried to make this point on Saturday. It's clearly a matter of collective bargaining at this point. And if the players want it, they've got to make it one of the things they ask for, which means something else they would want, they're not going to get. Oh, hey, if you want 18 games, then give us grass fields everywhere. Is that really a fair trade-off? I think the players should want more than that. But whatever they would attribute to all grass fields, that takes away something else that maybe they could get. It still is a way to divide and conquer the owners, because when the players say we want high-quality grass fields in every stadium, the teams that already have it are going to be like, it's fine with us. We already got it. But the only way it's going to happen is if the players ultimately are willing to strike over it. Because I don't think the owners are going to give up this flexibility. And some of these stadiums would have to be retrofitted to have the tray like we see at Las Vegas and Arizona, where the grass field goes out and you can do whatever you want on the floor inside. I don't think that's something that would easily be accomplished at these other stadiums, but they could do it if they wanted to, because they're doing it for FIFA. You could take that, you could put in a system at the floor of the stadium that takes the grass, drops it down, and covers it up. But it's expensive. But they could do it. But the players ultimately have to be willing to strike over it. And a strike wouldn't happen until 2031. We're talking about kids who are still in college or high school who will be the bulk of the union by the time we even have to make this decision. And we know, dating back to 1987, players aren't going to miss games. They're not going to miss game checks. A strike is not going to last. It lasted 3 weeks when they tried it in 1987. Some guys started crossing the picket lines, and then the floodgates opened, and that was that for the strike. 2011, pushed it right up to the brink. The owners were driving a hard bargain on finances. They got down to the end. The players started asking for all sorts of things that didn't cost the owners any money. The owners were like, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. You want fewer practices? That's fine. Fewer padded practices? That's fine. Reduce workload in the offseason? That's fine. Doesn't cost us anything. We'll give you all that stuff. Just agree to our terms financially. It's going to be a bigger fight this time, because it is going to cost real money for Jerry Jones and Stan Kroenke, the Giants and the Jets, the Vikings. Any stadium that currently has artificial turf would have to incur the expense to put in a high-quality grass field. And if you're in a dome stadium, good luck with that. It's going to be even more expensive. But I will say this. Nearly 25 million watched the game on Friday night between Fox, the English language broadcast, and Telemundo, Peacock, and the Telemundo streaming services that has the Spanish language broadcast. Nearly 25 million for an opening round robin game in the World Cup. Yes, it involved the United States, but bigger numbers than the NBA Finals, bigger numbers than the World Series, dwarfing NHL, Stanley Cup Final ratings. I remember in the 70s when soccer first kind of became a thing. It's like, we're never going to, it's boring, it's slow, they don't score enough. It's really established a foothold And I'd say, well, the watershed moment was the last time we hosted the World Cup in 1994. It gave birth to the MLS. It's not like the MLS has been like a major sports league. It doesn't draw big ratings on TV, but the momentum has been slow. Basically, soccer is doing in the United States what the NFL wants football to do in the rest of the world. It's a slow, methodical 50, 70, 100-year proposition, and it's working for soccer to the tune of nearly 25 million on a Friday night. Friday night, the TV wasteland nowadays. Friday night, nearly 25 million. In June, Friday night, nearly 25 million watched it. One last thing that I want to mention. The UFL had its championship game, the United Bowl, over the weekend. The Louisville Kings, their first year in the league. Chris Redman, a former NFL backup quarterback, his first coaching experience ever at any level. They beat the DC Defenders in their own building, completing a 3-game sweep this year of DC. They won twice in the regular season and in the United Bowl. Mike Rapoli, the billionaire who became a co-owner of the UFL and is the primary spokesperson, it seems. He's the guy who's out front-facing. We used to see others. We see Rapoli now. He had a press conference on Friday in connection with the United Bowl. I want to play a little bit of it, and if you read the post at PFT, you know what I'm going to focus on. If you didn't, you're going to find out. There's a key comment that he makes when he is discussing the timing of the start of the UFL season. Are they planning to move it around? Are they going to stay where they are? They don't want overlap with the NFL or college football. Here's Rapoli talking about that important question of when to start each year's UFL season.
I think that even if we stayed where we're at, we're going to get closer to the end of both seasons because they're going further along. And again, I think that's an opportunity. I think that just shows you how much people love football. You know, I think the NFL is doing 8 or 9 or 10 international games this year like crazy. They're adding an extra week, talking about 2 more expansion teams. You know, it's great for football. It's great for the NFL. It's great for college football, and it's great for the United Football League.
That it stood out to me when I watched it on Saturday. They're talking about adding 2 expansion teams. No, they're not. I've been saying that's coming. For now, it's about maximizing inventory by adding another week to the regular season. And it probably will be 2 weeks because there will be 2 buys. But they want to add another game. We know that. We know they're going to get that. They're going to get 18 regular season games and they're going to get 16 international games because they'll lock out the players until the players cry uncle. That's a given. And I've been saying at some point you're going to hear talk about expansion. I never expected it to come from the co-owner of the UFL. Now, there's a chance he has no idea what he's talking about, but you saw how he delivered it. He's very nonchalant. It's like it's a given. And he's got a connection to Tom Brady. He's a partner with Tom Brady in the Noble apparel and lifestyle line. They bought TB12, which was frankly failing, struggling, done. And Brady became a partner with Rapoli and Noble. So Rapoli's got a pipeline into what's going on behind the curtain. And he seems to be convinced that they're talking about adding 2 teams. And I'm convinced they will at some point. 34, 36, 38, 40. I think one of these days, and I'll be dead and gone by the time it happens, you'll have 20 weeks, 20 games, not 20 weeks, 20 games in the regular season, and you have 40 teams. That's the perfect long-range vision. They like having 8 divisions with 4 teams each. If you go to 40 teams, you're going to have 8 divisions with 5 teams each. You get toward 42 at a time, I would assume. So what you're going to have is one division in the AFC is going to pick up another team. One division in the NFC is going to pick up another team. Just like when they added teams in 76 and 95 and 2002, it was just one team after the Browns had become the Ravens, and then the Browns re-entered That's where it is, because they're really an expansion team. So it was 2 teams in 76, the Seahawks and the Buccaneers, 2 teams in 95, the Jaguars and the Panthers, 1 team in 99, the resurrected Browns, 1 team in 2002, the Houston Texans. That's what got us, as of 2002, to this current structure. And that's when they moved some of the divisions around. They moved the Seahawks from the AFC to the NFC. They got the Cardinals out of the NFC East, thank God. And they like that right now. That's the problem. Adding expansion teams is going to disrupt that. But it's been disrupted in the past. And always follow the big Mamu. Because as you're peeling off games to tuck them into these nighttime windows, the more teams means the more games. And that's going to be particularly relevant when it's time to have 2 buys. The networks hated it when they had 2 buys in 1993. Now, there were 4 fewer teams then. There were only 28 teams in the NFL in 1993, but they did 2 buys, and that diluted each week's schedule because you got to find time for everybody to be off twice. I'm not sure when we'd have 2 teams. I have no idea where the teams would be, but I was struck by the nonchalance of Rapoli's delivery, and it made me think he knows something. He's heard something, and maybe he wasn't told don't say anything about it, or maybe he was. Maybe he's the plant. Maybe he's the trial balloon just to get the conversation out there. It worked, if it is, because we're on it, and we're talking about it, and it reminds me of when they leaked to Shefty that they were thinking about playing the night before Thanksgiving. Once he puts that on blast on his Twitter fire hose, people get used to the idea pretty quickly, and it just became a given. So watch Schefter's Twitter account. When he says they're talking about adding 2 teams, that means they are. That means they will. I don't know if it's 2 teams in London. I don't know where. I don't know where they would put 2 new teams, but Rapoli said it. And now we're on expansion watch in the NFL. We'll be on watch for any and all news, any and all updates. There's always a chance for an emergency PFT PM based upon something that happens. Otherwise, as we embark on the PFT Live hiatus, 6 full weeks this year, I will do this as many weekdays as possible with the goal of keeping it between 30 and 45 minutes. I think for a change, I have succeeded. I thank you for your time, and I remind you to check us out around the clock at profootballtalk.com. We will do this again on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and hopefully Friday. Have a great Monday. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.